Hi everybody, welcome to our webinar. I am so excited to be here today and to share this information with you. We are going to start in a few minutes. It looks like people are still coming in, so we'll wait for everybody to join, the stragglers, maybe 5 minutes or so, so just relax for a few minutes. You will be able to ask questions during this webinar, so if you have a question, just type it into the chat and we will do our best to get to it. We will answer questions at the end. If we don't get to your question, it will be answered by email. And if you are watching a recorded version of this webinar, then you can still ask questions or comment, and those will also be answered by email. This webinar will be available for replay. You will get a replay link by email. And while we are waiting for everybody to straggle in, I do want to tell you a quick story about how I got into functional medicine. Have you ever had to talk about yourself or about something personal to a group of people? It's hard, at least for me it's hard. It's probably hard for you too. But I was given a class at Illinois Wesleyan University, and someone asked me, how did I get into functional medicine and into integrative medicine? So I told my story, and I got a little bit emotional because I'm not used to doing that kind of thing, and so it's a little bit uncomfortable for me. But the instructor always gives out an evaluation sheet after speakers come in, and a lot of the students said that they thought that that was the best part of the talk. And one of my friends said, well, maybe the other parts of your talk was really, really bad. I thought, gee, thanks. What are what are friends for? So aside from that, while we're waiting for everybody to join in and to get signed in, let me quickly tell you the story of my son. He was diagnosed with epilepsy at age 1. His seizures were controlled with medications, with only minor problems, until about adolescence. And that's when the bottom fell out. His meds just stopped working, and who knows why. Maybe hormones, adolescent hormones, we don't really know. The doctors didn't know. After about 6 months, he went from controlled seizures to about 15 to 20 bad seizures a day. And his life basically came to a halt. There wasn't any school. He couldn't do schoolwork. He couldn't eat. It would make him nauseous when he would eat. So we went to specialists. We would change doctors. Specialist after specialist, medication after medication, nothing was working. Then I was at a medical seminar on an unrelated topic, and the ketogenic diet came up. Now this was years before it became popular for weight loss. I had never heard of it, but I heard during this webinar that it was used for epilepsy. So I started learning everything I could about it. And this was in the days before the internet. Yes, I'm that old. But this was before the internet, and research was hard to do back then. You had to go to the library. You had to send off for books and for research articles. And I won't go into a lot of details, but all the research showed at the very least it was safe. And yes, it was used especially for childhood epilepsy. So we went back to the specialist, and I asked their opinion of the diet. And when I would ask them, several of them would say, oh no, that's dangerous, don't do that. I said, really? 15 bad seizures a day is not dangerous? And I knew from my research that at the very least it was not dangerous. So then, researching more, I found out that Rush Presbyterian in Chicago was one of the 2 places in the country that had a program where they would help parents implement the ketogenic diet for epilepsy. So we went there and we started him on a strict keto diet. This is much stricter than the keto diets that people are on today. You have to stay in ketosis. Now, I'd been a chiropractor for years, and I had seen natural treatments work all the time. But I was totally blown away by how quickly this diet changed his brain chemistry and stopped his seizures in about 10 days. It was incredible. He was off of all medication after about a month and seizure-free. So I started learning everything I could about diets and health and functional medicine, and I started applying this to my patients with chronic health problems. And what I learned from that process was, number one, given the right conditions, the body has an amazing ability to heal itself. Number two, with the right information, there are answers to your chronic health problems. So let me see here. Looks like just about everybody is here. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Now, I am sure that you are all here because you want to fix your digestive problems. So it is super important that you block out all distractions. Some of this information is a little complicated because it's medical, and so you have to pay attention. I don't want to dumb it down, and I'm going to tell you the truth. There is no one size fits all when it comes to real live human beings. Maybe you've heard a pill for an ill and a supplement for what's up. But we don't do that. We don't do that. There is no take this supplement because it helps 100% of people. That's just simply not true. We don't do that because it's not true. Everybody's an individual. At the end of this webinar, we are not going to try to sell you our 5 special supplements, quote unquote, to you. If we give you a supplement, it's because we saw on a lab test that you need it. So you have to pay attention, and you have to stay until the end. Give this time back to yourself. I know it is rare nowadays to give anything your undivided attention with cell phones and the internet, but you are here for a reason, and really you're here for a good reason. I really want to make sure that you can focus and get everything you can out of this training. Don't let it go in one ear and out the other. I want you to be able to absorb this and especially to be able to take action on it. On that note, I do have a special gift for you. Everybody likes presents, right? When you stay until the end, I'm going to give you our video on the War Room. Now, the War Room video shows you how to organize yourself and set up a quote-unquote war room to sort out difficult health problems that seem to be overwhelming. This is especially helpful if you have multiple symptoms. So you know in war movies, they have a war room where all the generals are standing around and they have their armies on the board, and then they have intelligence that comes in, so they change this strategy on the board. This is the same method, kind of, that we use at Midwest Functional Medicine. And this video explains how we do that and how we sort out the complex issues that can come with these kind of problems. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Robert Herman, and I've been in practice over 30 years. I have board certification in orthopedics. After my career as a supermodel, okay, that's totally not true. I was never a supermodel. I was just seeing if you were listening. I was seeing if everybody was awake. So as I just explained, I started learning and doing functional medicine because of problems with a family member. And then I realized its potential in treating autoimmune conditions and digestive problems. The human body is incredibly complex, and the more we learn, and we're learning some incredible things about the human body, and the closer we look, the more complex it gets. But as complex as it is, if you find the root cause of your illness and give the body what it needs naturally, it has an amazing ability to heal itself. That's pretty simple, right? So why are you here today? Well, I'm assuming that you have a digestive problem that you can't get under control, and that it has significantly affected your life. I'm assuming you're not able to do the things that you want to do with your friends and your family, at least some of the time, and you might be embarrassed and just want it all to go away. So can you imagine what it's going to be like to finally get these symptoms under control? So I have a question for you. Why haven't you been able to fix your problem? Well, It could be for several reasons. Number one, because you don't know what your problem is. Okay, so you have a diagnosis of Crohn's disease or irritable bowel syndrome or something like that, but that doesn't tell you what the root cause of it is. It doesn't, all it is a name to what your condition is. It doesn't tell you really what's wrong with you. Why is the lining of your gut irritated and your best friend or maybe your spouse's is not irritated? You know, your spouse, you eat about the same food. Why is yours irritated and not theirs? So an example of root causes are genetics, hidden infections like yeast infections, poor diet, methylation issues, toxins, detoxification problems. And in order to fix the problem, you have to fix the root cause. Now that makes sense, doesn't it? Number two, you don't know how to fix the problem. Maybe you've figured out what your problem is, you just don't know how to fix it. How do you fix a methylation problem or detoxification problem, or how do you get a yeast infection under control? Number three, you know that you have a problem, you know what it is, but you just have a hard time making the changes. You know your diet is bad, but it's super hard to make meaningful changes. It's hard to stop not eating chocolate chip cookies. You know, I can vouch for that. It's very difficult. You need support. But if you can follow these 3 steps, then you're there. So my promise to you is by the end of this webinar, you're going to know exactly why your past attempts at health haven't worked and how to start treating your condition the correct way. I also promise that you will have a roadmap to determine what the root cause or causes of your condition are. When we find the root cause and we fix that, that's when you will get better. And it works because it's scientific. It works because it's not drugs and surgery. If you follow our roadmap, you will get answers and you will get better. But perhaps more important, we are going to teach you the skills to help keep yourself get better. And I'm sure you can see how important those skills are. So finding health is kind of like a treasure map. However, instead of the dark woods with witches and warlocks, you have to go through the gauntlet of fast food restaurants and cross the river of lots of stress in order to get to the treasure at the end of the journey. And this journey can be difficult, just like Frodo. But we are going to walk with you hand in hand to find the treasure and so that you can be healthy. You know, sometimes there are skills you need to learn from someone else, like riding a bike or being an architect. First, you need to learn what the root causes are in your body. Then you need to learn lifestyle changes to support fixing these root causes. You need to learn to override the part of the brain that seeks immediate gratification. You need to learn what stories you are telling yourself, things that might seem very legitimate but are holding you back. These are just skills that you need to learn, just like riding a bike. But you do need to learn them. If you don't learn them, and you think you can do this on your own, and if you don't get the skills in these areas, you will not be successful. You will lose your self-belief because you will believe you can't do it. You will start to build up all the evidence against yourself. You will think you aren't going to heal. You will think this is just the way it's going to be, when really you are just lacking the skills. It's like a muscle. You just need to practice. And consistency over time carves canyons. In treating hundreds of patients, we hear stories that show up over and over again. And one of them is that it's all in your head. And I am here to tell you it is not all in your head. If you have been told that there is nothing we can do, or that you need an antidepressant, or let's increase your meds, that's really frustrating for patients. Doctors will tell you it's all in your head or take more medication. They will say it's your hormones without testing your hormones. We hear these stories all the time. They are going to the doctor with, and you name the symptom, brain fog, rashes, digestive issues, chronic fatigue, mood swings, weight gain, depression, and you get pill after pill until you feel like you're a little cuckoo. I'm here to tell you it's not all in your head. You just haven't found the root cause. I'm going to show you how to fix this in 5 easy steps, and it's proven, and it's natural, and it's without drugs and surgery. So are you struggling with constipation or diarrhea, gas, bloating, digestive pain, cramping, sugar craving, mood swings, recurring yeast infections, autoimmune conditions, chronic fatigue, weight gain, or you can't lose weight, or skin problems? Do you have inflammatory bowel disease like ulcerative colitis or Crohn's or irritable bowel syndrome? Maybe you're having side effects from your medication. Maybe medication works, but it's just the side effects are too strong. What do you struggle with? If it's any of these, you are in the right place. Are you feeling embarrassed by your symptoms? Are you feeling ignored by your doctor? Are you feeling tired all the time or in pain all the time? Are your symptoms holding you back? I know how you feel, and you're in the right place. Are you wondering what's wrong with me? Is it all in my head? Is this normal? Where did all these symptoms come from? And are you wondering, is there anyone who can help me? Am I ever going to feel like myself again? Well, I'm here to tell you that you can have your life back. Why do other doctors get this wrong? Why do they not listen to you and think it's all in your head? Sometimes they believe that your set of symptoms just doesn't exist. They view them as women issues or stress or aging, and they're not looking for the root cause. They want to deal only with your symptoms and give you a pill for those symptoms. In functional medicine, we seek out the root cause of your symptoms so that you can overcome them. For those of you who don't know what functional medicine is, maybe this is a new term for you, we seek to get to the root cause of your problem. Conventional medicine is a downstream approach. Functional medicine is an upstream approach. Let's say you have, for example, 4 symptoms. Let's say constipation, bloating, diarrhea, and gas, just as an example. Why go downstream and take a pill for the symptoms? That's not going to fix the problem. You have to go upstream and find the cause. Yeast, digestion, stress, nutritional deficiencies are examples of upstream root causes. Finding the root cause is not a guess. Sometimes people think it's a guess. It's not a guess. It's not one treatment for everybody, such as take this probiotic and this digestive enzyme, and it's going to fix everyone's digestive problem. That's not going to work. People are more complicated than that. 2 people with exactly the same symptoms can have totally different root causes. So, gut health is extremely important. Your small intestine, not your large intestine, just your small intestine, is about the size of half of a badminton court, or about 300 square meters. The inside lining of that separates your outside world from the inside world is only about 1 to 2 millimeters thick. That's the inside lining of your small intestine. You also have a microbiome, which are bacteria in your gut that are good bacteria that perform functions in your colon. And this is your little zoo in there. These are little critters, little bugs, little animals that are doing a service to you by digesting your food, and by, good bacteria, they eat toxins and they spit out vitamins. Bad bacteria, they eat vitamins and they poop out toxins. So your little zoo in there is very important. And that zoo is dependent on what you feed it. And so your zoo, the animals in your zoo, eat what you give them to eat. And that's the food that you're putting in your mouth. Healthy digestion and a good immune system keep bad bacteria and yeast from overgrowing and causing problems. Your gut it's the barrier between your outside world and the world inside your body. It's supposed to let very small digested food particles in for nourishment. The inside lining is filled with immune system cells to protect you from bacteria, viruses, toxins, and other critters like yeast from getting into your system. If this barrier, this 1 to 2 millimeter barrier, is compromised, then foreign substances can get in where they're not supposed to. Your immune system then will view these foreign products, these foreign proteins, as invaders, and it will mount an attack on the proteins of these invaders. Sometimes your body cannot distinguish between these foreign proteins and the proteins inside your own body. So your immune system starts attacking your own cells. And this is how autoimmune conditions start. So your intestine kind of acts like a colander or a filter. It really acts like a very sophisticated filter. If you damage the lining and the holes get bigger, then that's when inflammation starts. This is called leaky gut syndrome. This is not any kind of a pseudo-scientific concept, but it is rooted solidly in science. If you go to PubMed, which is where medical studies are organized for medical professionals and researchers, a search for leaky gut will produce over 700 results. So let's talk about 4 ways that your digestive system can get out of whack. Number 1, or the first way your digestive system can get out of whack, is the standard American diet, or what's called SAD. And it's called SAD for a reason. It's full of high carbs, of sugar. It's full in chemicals, preservatives, plastics, pesticides. It's high in bad fats, omega-6s, trans fats, fried foods. It has alcohol in it a lot of the times. 70% of what we eat is not real food. It's chemicals and other things. So like these new plant-based burgers that are out now, if you read the label, those things read like a chemical factory. If you can make a plant taste like a burger, you know there's some serious processing going on. So besides, what's wrong with real meat? And what's wrong with plants that you have to change them to make them taste like meat? That doesn't make any sense to me. Number 2 is stress. Stress affects every medical condition, and it especially affects people that have chronic problems and have multiple symptoms or multiple system conditions. Stress almost always affects these people, and we often find that stress is the initial condition that caused all these problems in the first place. We find that when we do our histories. So stress affects every physical condition. You just can't avoid it. Number 3 is medication. And I'm not in any way telling you to get off of medication without consulting your doctor. But these medications and others will affect your digestive tract. Antibiotics, steroids, birth control pills, NSAIDs like ibuprofen or aspirin, naproxen, if you're having pain and you take those on a regular basis. For instance, antibiotics kill the good, normal bacteria in your gut. The others will alter the ratio of good and bad bacteria. Number 4 is hormones. Hormones can affect digestive problems, especially estrogen, cortisol, which is your stress hormone, and serotonin, which is a neurotransmitter that kind of gives you that feel-good feeling. There is a connection between your gut and your brain. And this is not, again, a pseudoscientific concept. We know now that the gut and the brain are connected. And just as an example, yeast produces alcohol and aldehyde. And so that if you have a yeast infection, it can cause problems with the alcohol and the aldehyde. Those are toxic to your nervous system. They can produce things like brain fog and poor concentration and memory problems, ADHD and ADD, and sleep problems. There's a connection between your gut and your brain. 95% of your serotonin is not in your brain, it's in your gut. It is produced in your gut. So now on to the fix. How do we get you to own your own poop? And that sounds funny, but we want you to be in control of your poop, not the other way around. It shouldn't be the other way around. How do we get control of your digestive problems once and for all? How do we do it? Well, we have a 5-step process. So out of the 5 steps, the first step is an in-depth history and evaluation with a review of your medical records. I know this sounds pretty basic, and it is basic, but our history form is going to cover traditional medical history along with lifestyle habits. These are the lifestyle habits we were talking about earlier that needed to be learned. Our history usually takes about an hour to complete. And with a thorough history, most of the time, we can get a pretty good picture of what direction we need to go. So, what is the root cause or causes in you? The truth is, I don't know what is wrong with you, but I do know how to find out, and that's what testing is for. So, step 2 is in-depth lab testing. Listed above are some of the tests. And there's the comprehensive stool test, the dietary antigen test or food allergies, the comprehensive hormone test or what's called the Dutch test, organic acid test, the Sibo test or the small intestinal bowel overgrowth test, and then genetic testing can also be very helpful. We could spend the next week talking about lab testing, but my goal is not to make you an expert on lab tests. So I'm going to show you just the comprehensive stool test in more detail to give you an idea of what these tests can do. And I'll just touch lightly on the other tests. The next few slides are from real patients at our clinic. They show results from patients with chronic digestive problems. This first slide shows how the comprehensive stool test measures your gut bacteria. Your gut has normal bacteria that are very important not only for your gut health, but for your overall health. Measuring these bacteria tell us what type of probiotic to use, or if you need any antibiotic, if we're going to use, or probiotic, if we're going to use any at all. This person is low on bifidobacter and lactobacillus. And you can see that by the 1 in front of the bifidobacter and lactobacillus in that first left column. This test also tells us about bad bacteria. In this case, the Citrobacter. At a +4, this Citrobacter infection was a root cause for this patient, this low-grade infection that she was having. And this slide is from the same patient. When a bad bacteria is found, the lab will culture it to see what we can use to fight it. It will culture it for natural products and for prescriptive agents. Of course, we always want to use the natural products, and in this case, it was Uva ursi because that was what that Citrobacter was most sensitive to. And this is a good indication here. We would not want to use berberine or black walnut because that would have no effect on that. Everybody's an individual. Someone else could have this same infection, and berberine or black walnut might be highly sensitive for their infection. So we always want to test and see. We want to test, not guess. This patient also had a bad bacteria, Klebsiella, but look at the good bacteria. Bifidobacter and E. coli were at NG, which is no growth, and you can see that on the first column there on the left. So we definitely would want to supplement with Bifidobacter with this patient, and then we would need to find out how we're going to deal with that Klebsiella infection. So when the lab tested this Klebsiella infection, it found that grapefruit seed extract was the most effective for this Klebsiella infection. But again, sometimes we do the grapefruit seed, or the most effective one, for a few weeks. Then we'll switch tactics and try something else like uva ursi or caprylic acid in this patient. So this comprehensive stool test is going to check for more things than just good bacteria and infections. It's going to check for yeast and for parasites, and that's not on this slide, but I just wanted to mention that. But what is on this slide is that on the top here, it shows how well your body is digesting food. Elastase is an enzyme that digests protein, fats, and carbs, and it's secreted by your pancreas. And you can see that this patient is deficient in elastase. There are markers for inflammation and markers for your gut immune system. Secretory IgA is your first line of defense against foreign invaders in your gut. It's an immune IgA. And you can see it is low here. We can take this information and develop a personalized nutritional and supplement program when we consider these findings. The comprehensive stool test also tests short-chain fatty acids. And short-chain fatty acids are secreted by good bacteria when they digest certain types of fiber. These fatty acids are necessary for building important molecules your body uses for other things, for other purposes. Alterations in the short-chain fatty acids can cause problems elsewhere and problems in your gut. And you can see this patient is low in short-chain fatty acids. And once again, we want to tailor our program for what we're seeing on the lab test. So we would introduce certain types of fiber in order to increase those short-chain fatty acids. So this one comprehensive stool test, that one test measures the good microbiome, bad bacteria, commensal bacteria. It's cultured if there is a problem. It tests for yeast and for funguses or for fungi. And with yeast and fungus, we do a 3-time stool test, not just one sample, but 3 times over 3 days. And the reason for that is if you only do one test on one day, you will miss different problems. And the reason that you miss them is because yeast and fungi, they grow in colonies. So if you just test one part of one sample, then you're likely to miss certain problems. It'll test for parasites and for enzymes for digestion like fat and protein and glucose, carbohydrate, inflammatory markers, immunology like secretory IgA, short-chain fatty acids of acetate, propionate, butyrate, and valerate. And the conditions that it can help us to find from these things that it measures are the altered microbiome for probiotics, Sibo and Candida in yeast infections, whether there's a hidden type of bad bacteria infection, parasites and low enzymes, inflammation, low secretory IgA, low short-chain fatty acids. And in doing this, we can help with the following symptoms: abdominal pain, constipation, diarrhea, autoimmune conditions, bloating, gas, belching, blood in the stool, skin conditions, thyroid, joint pain, psoriasis, nail or fungal infections, and even skin problems. So the one comprehensive stool test really helps us out quite a bit for these chronic problems. So I am not going to go into detail on all the different functional medicine tests and their benefits. We really don't have time for that today. However, I do want to mention the main tests and why we might use them. In the replay email that we're going to send you, there will be links to in-depth information for each of these tests if you would like more information. So the hormone testing, the Dutch test, tests estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and cortisol, and that is tested 4 times throughout the day because we want to evaluate what's called the cortisol awakening response, which really sets up your circadian rhythms and gives us a good analysis on how stress is affecting your body. Melatonin and other neurotransmitters. So those hormone tests on the Dutch test, they can evaluate and help us with the symptoms of blood sugar, PCOS, female hormonal problems, male hormonal problems, fatigue, anxiety, and sleeping problems. The Sibo test, or the small intestinal bowel overgrowth test, is a test that tests to see if bacteria are overgrowing in your small intestine. You should not have much bacteria in your small intestine. It should be down in your large intestine, but sometimes it can back up into your small intestine, and it can cause bloating and other digestive symptoms. The organic acids test is a very powerful test to evaluate multiple interconnected systems in your body's metabolism. So it's a urine test. It measures 78 different biomarkers, and it has yeast and fungal and bacterial markers, oxalate metabolites, glycolytic cycle, which is the glycolytic cycle is how your body burns sugar, and the Krebs cycle. You know, we learned that everybody should have learned that in high school biology about the Krebs cycle. That's how your body makes energy. And so it'll test different metabolites of the Krebs cycle to see if there's a problem with that. And that also includes some mitochondrial markers. Amino acid markers, and amino acids are the building blocks of proteins, enzymes, tissue, everything. Well, not everything, but almost a lot of different things are made from protein. And so we can find problems by testing the amino acid markers. It'll test 8 neurotransmitter biomarkers. It'll test folate metabolism, fatty acid metabolism. It'll test 8 nutritional markers: vitamin B6, B12, B5, B2, vitamin C, CoQ10, glutathione, and biotin. And then there are 5 detoxification markers that helps us to know how well is your body detoxifying things. Then there's the dietary antigen test, or the food allergy test. It measures 78 different foods and food groups for 4 different immune responses. This is a blood test, and it's the only lab that I'm aware of that measures all 4 of these responses: the IgG, the IgE, the IgG4, and the C3D, or what's called complement, that is very important in autoimmune conditions. Okay, so we were talking a while back, seems a long time ago, about the 5 steps. And the first step was an in-depth history and review of medical records. The second step was lab testing, and it seems like that was back in the 1800s now. But step number 3 is the 5 pillars of health. It's education on the 5 pillars of health, and it's taking action on these 5 pillars: nutrition, toxin removal, mindset or stress, and movement or exercise, and then the sleep and circadian rhythms. We're not going to wait for the lab test to come back before we make changes, because it'll take a few weeks, sometimes a month, to get our lab test back. We want you to be as healthy as you can be before we make those targeted, personalized changes from the lab test. And these pillars of health work together to create an interlocking network of health. Sleep will affect all the rest of them. I'm sure you know that. Sleep will affect every one of those pillars, as does exercise. Stress, we've already talked about, affects everything. Toxins can mess the whole process up. And of course, nutrition is the cornerstone. So we can't ignore any of these. We need to work on all of these to get your health as good as we can before we get those tests back and make targeted personal changes. Step 4 is help and accountability. So Step 4, we're going to pair you with a health coach. And the health coach is going to help you with recipes, accountability, support. And when I was a teenager, I would help my friend's family bale hay. And I remember the first time that I went, I helped, and he was explaining to me how the baler worked and how we were going to stack it so it doesn't fall over, and on and on and on, explaining every little detail. And finally I said to him, I said, Daryl, just tell me what to do. I don't really care about all the rest. I'm going to be here for a couple of days doing this, and then I'll probably never do it again. So we pair you with a health coach. The health coach is going to tell you what to do. But some people like to learn more, and that's terrific. That's great. Your health coach will help you with that. It'll help. Your coach will help you with food choices, accountability, and support is always just a text away, so communication is immediate. And we do want to show you how to do it on your own. There's an old saying that says, give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man how to fish, and feed him for a lifetime. Before the lab tests are in, we have several weeks to start making changes, and we want to make good use of this time. So in changing nutrition and working on stress reduction, circadian rhythms, sleep and movement, and removing toxins from your food and environment, this will help out a lot because they are all very important in making lasting changes and getting to the root cause. Finally, to step number 5. After the tests are in, we will sit down and go through them and review them. And then we will have a personalized program for you as an individual based on your specific needs and your metabolism. This is a personalized approach. It's not one size fits all. It is developed from the stool test, the food allergy test, the comprehensive hormone test, and any other test that we decide to run based on your specific history. The program will have supplement recommendations along with nutrition and lifestyle recommendations, and your health coach will help you to implement your program. Okay, so I can hear you saying, some from, because we've been doing this a long time, and I can see this in the chat, I can hear you saying, Dr. Herman, why doesn't my doctor run these tests? Why do I have to be on a special diet? What is the cost? Does insurance pay? Okay, all very good questions that we get all the time. So let's go through them one by one. Why doesn't my doctor run these tests? Okay, doctors today specialize. A gastroenterologist does not do nutrition. They could send you to a nutritionist, but the nutritionist doesn't treat allergies. Everyone specializes. This specialization prevents them from having a comprehensive approach that gets to the root cause. Also, the medical system today is primarily drugs or surgery. They're not going to do a test if it doesn't lead them to one or the other, drugs or surgery. Number 2, do I have to be on a special diet? No, we do not do diets, but we do nutrition, okay? So people eventually always get off of diets and end up back where they started from. You will have to not eat foods that you are allergic to for at least 60 days, maybe longer. So in that regard, yes, if you want to call that a diet, you will have to change what you're eating. So yes and no on that one. We don't do diets. It's not going to be a paleo diet, or it's not going to be a whatever diet, because people always get off of diets. This is teaching you how to eat what is best for you. Number 3, what is the cost? The cost just depends, and it sounds like I'm avoiding that one, but what we do is we do what's called a discovery call, which is gathering information on your case. We will then set out a plan, and we will give you options. And the plan will include what tests we think that we need to run on you. And I'll be honest, the testing is not cheap. That's our biggest cost. We perform quality testing from reputable, certified labs. However, there is no charge until you decide to accept one of our plans designed for you. So we'll go through your information. We'll decide what tests we need to run. We'll give you, we'll sit down and go through that with you, and we'll give you some different options on plans, and then that's when you decide if we're a right fit for you. Factors that determine the price are what tests we need to run and how long your program is. That varies from patient to patient. These things will vary from each patient. Number 4, does insurance pay? Insurance does not like to pay for functional medicine testing. We do not want you to count on them for paying for your test. Now, we have had some insurances that will pay for tests, and you can verify if your insurance may pay by calling the number on the back of your card. They will ask you for CPT codes, which we can make available to you for your test. Whether your insurance pays or not, our fee is our fee. It doesn't change. If your insurance pays, that amount will go back to you. Okay, I want to let everybody know that this is not for everybody. We only accept patients we think we can help, and you need to fit our criteria. This is not for an acute, recent problem, but this is for chronic problems not responding to traditional medical treatment. You need to have a medical workup before we will treat you. Spousal or significant other support is mandatory. We have to have that. It is very important that everyone in the household knows the program and is willing to help. We don't want anybody sabotaging you. We want everybody on the same page. It doesn't really help if you are on a healthy diet and your spouse brings home McDonald's. That's not good. And if they understand the process, then that won't happen. And you need to be ready to make the changes. Maybe the timing is not right for you. Maybe you have something coming up that you need to get done before you do this. So think about the timing too. So what would your life be like if you discovered the root cause of your problem and had a program personalized to you to help you fix it? I want to show you, this is very short, but I just want to show you a short testimonial from Sophia.
I came in to see Dr. Herman for a number of overlapping issues, such as chronic pain, fatigue, fibromyalgia, and endometriosis. And I felt like I had hit another wall in feeling better, and my traditional doctors couldn't help. So Dr. Herman took really special time to sit down with me and understand what I was saying and experiencing, to take a whole body and mind approach to what I was experiencing on a daily basis. And after some really incredible testing, he had helped me find the right supplements. Sarah helped me tremendously with a sustainable, fun diet that really works for me. And they have gotten me back to doing some things that I really love to do. So before, I didn't have energy to spare on my gardening, walking my dog, enjoying time with my husband, or even little things like washing the dishes. And while I'm not cured, I am back to living a more fulfilling daily life. So thank you to Dr. Herman and Sarah.
So what if you could regain your confidence like Sophie did and say goodbye to the embarrassing symptoms and feel like yourself again without the brain fog and the mood swings? Have more time and energy to do the things that you love and prevent more serious injuries from developing. You could get back to enjoying time with your family, and you will learn skills that you and your family will have forever. So let me ask you a question. It's hard to cover everything in 16 minutes, and everyone's situation is different. So what if I could find a way to continue the conversation? How many of you would be interested in that? I know the last 40, 50 minutes has been fun, but most of you probably feel a little bit overwhelmed, right? And I totally get that. So we have arranged a way to continue this conversation and to make it much more applicable to your specific situation. We have arranged to have free 20 to 30 minute discovery calls with me to evaluate your specific situation. Now, we spend a lot of time with our patients, so we only have a limited number of these spots. Would you like me to help you get your health back on track in the next 3 to 4 months and then keep you healthy? By now, I think you can start to imagine what it would be like to have control over your digestive issues. So my dream for you is that you live your own success story, that you make changes that are proven to work and see the results, and you get your life back. Human health is fundamental to life. Will you join us? Your time is now, not tomorrow or yesterday. Call to set up a discovery call to discuss your case. There is no obligation. You can either call the office or click on the link below, which will take you to a calendar, and you can schedule there. Or you can call the office directly. So the next step is yours. Schedule a free discovery call to see your options and how we can help you. So I'd like to take a few questions now that we had come in. One here is, what about if I'm taking existing supplements? How will that affect that? Well, we will sit down and talk about your existing supplements. Sometimes we recommend that you discontinue those. We'll give you a good reason why if we ask you to do that. Occasionally we'll have someone taking supplements that we think they should be on and will complement their case very well, so it just kind of all depends. Another question here, what if I cannot take the supplements that you're giving me? I don't know why that would happen. Occasionally we have people who will try to take a supplement and maybe they'll get nauseous or it just doesn't agree with them. And so then we'll try to work that out. We'll get a different supplement. When we have what are called case fees, and we will give you one fee, and that will cover everything. It covers everything from A to Z. So if we give you a supplement and it doesn't agree with you, maybe it upsets your stomach, we will replace that supplement. And if we're going along and we think you need another lab test, there is no additional cost for that. It all is covered in that fee. So I'm not sure if that answered your question or not. Do you have virtual appointments? Yes, we do, especially since COVID. We do a lot of our appointments virtually, so that certainly is available. We are HIPAA compliant also, so we have software that is HIPAA compliant, so if you don't have to worry about that. Even our text messaging from the doctor to the client and from the health coach to the client, that is all under HIPAA compliant software. Let me see here. Can a vegan or vegetarian do the program? Yes, that's not a problem at all. I already have autoimmunity. Can I do the program? Yes, you should be doing the program if you have autoimmunity. That's what this program is for autoimmune conditions. So definitely. Let's see. What if I eat out or travel during the program? Your health coach will help you with that. We do have patients like that, and you should be prepared when you go out and travel or eat out. You should be prepared to stick with your program and do what you're doing, because that's one of those skills that you need to learn. How will I access the material? We would send that out to you by email, and they would be on PDFs. We also have some videos in the educational area. We use what's called one-pagers. And one-pagers, it's you'll go to we'll give you a link, and it goes to a website where it gives the video and the PDF, and then you can take notes on the one-pagers. That's what we like about them the most. You can take notes on there. As you're watching the video, you can take notes. And so it really helps you to organize as you're going through it. There's also resources on there. So we like those one-pagers. They seem to work really well. Okay, well, I think that's going to wrap it up here. And I want to encourage you to schedule a free discovery call. It does not cost you anything, and we will just sit down and talk about your case. and then we'll set up a plan for you, and you don't have to pay anything until you decide the plan that you're going to select. All right, thank you very much for listening.